Hi, my name is Art Panam, and I'm the host and founder of ScapeFu podcast. Thank you for watching this video. In this video, I'm going to try and show you why it makes sense for you to subscribe to the ScapeFu podcast. It's very important for us that produce ScapeFu, that spend the time to try and bring you the best information on planted aquariums and aquascaping, for people to subscribe. It helps us get the word out. iTunes, which is the most powerful way that we can publicize the ScapeFu podcast, really relies on four things to determine whether or not it's going to help you become popular. That is, or those four things are the number of subscribers that you have, the number of shares that you have, the number of ratings, and the number of reviews. And this is, when I'm saying these four things, I'm talking about iTunes. It's not shares on Facebook or shares on Twitter. It's shares via the iTunes mechanism. So let me show it to you. First, most of you, we are seeing, listen to the ScapeFu podcast via the website. So whenever you find out or hear that there's a new episode, you come here to the ScapeFu website. Maybe you come to the podcast page, which you arrive by clicking at the podcast button in the toolbar. You click over here to the episode that you want, and it'll pop up, giving you a way to listen to it right from the web page. Here it is. It popped up. You scroll down, and then you have this orange bar here, which is the player. And you click this orange button, and you can hear the entire episode from your computer while you're reading the show notes. It's a great way to do it. Nothing wrong with that. And if this is what you like to do and you have time, wonderful. Please do that. I would ask you to, in addition to, please subscribe, rate, and review us. And share if you can. I'll show you how to do that now. If you're an active person or you like to listen to music or podcasts while you're on the go, whether you're exercising, whether you are driving to work, whether you're mowing the lawn, whether you're doing housework, then what I'm going to show you is the best way to consume the podcast. You probably are listening to music or other podcasts via your phone, your iPhone, or your Android phone, or maybe you have an iPod or other type of digital music player. You can get the podcast into that vehicle, whether it's a phone, an iPod, or something else, automatically, simply by going to iTunes. So the next time you're at the computer, I'm going to ask you to please do what I'm going to show you here. I'm going to close out of this browser, and I'm going to go to iTunes. So the next time you're at your computer, go to iTunes. And here is the iTunes store. It shows up on the top right. You have the search area. So go there and type in ScapeFu. And you see that it already gives you a suggestion, the ScapeFu podcast. Double click on that, or maybe you'll have to press enter like I did, and it brings up the search results, which are the episodes for ScapeFu, and here at the bottom is the ScapeFu podcast. Click on that and it'll take you to the page for the ScapeFu podcast within iTunes Store. Now there's a lot of information here. Let me help you digest it. On the left, you have our logo. Then you have this area here. Click the subscribe button. By doing that, what you're telling iTunes is, I want to subscribe to this podcast, so the next time there's a podcast episode released, automatically download it to iTunes here on the computer, and also to any connected device, and that would be your iPhone or your iPod. So you don't have to worry about going and downloading and whether or not we've released it. It automatically will be there for you as soon as we release it. Okay? If you click on this down arrow, you get the option of telling a friend via email, sharing it on Twitter, and sharing it on Facebook, or copying the link and placing it at some other social media. This is the shares that I was talking to you. So far we've gone through a couple of ways that iTunes is going to measure how much it wants to promote the ScapeFu podcast. One is for those of you that subscribe, that's one. And now these shares is going to be another way that it tells how popular this podcast is and how much should it promote it. Now, we talked about two more things, ratings and reviews. The ratings and reviews are right here in the middle of your screen. Go ahead and click on that. Now you're going to see the ratings that we've received so far, and we're June 2015. We have 29 ratings, and thankfully they're all 5-star ratings. Thank you so much if you've done that already. You get the option of rating us if you haven't by clicking here. See, click to rate, and you can select 1, I hate it, all the way up through it's great, 5. Okay? Go ahead and do that. Then down here's a button, write a review. If you click on that, a dialog box pops up. Here you can write a title such as Art is a tremendous talent and is also quite handsome, or something like that, whatever you'd like. And then here in the review box, write a review, whatever your thoughts are, suggestions, what you like, what you encourage. Remember, these are other people just like you searching for a podcast on planted aquariums and aquascaping. What can you tell them about our podcast so that they become a subscriber and listen? That's what you're trying to do here. It's kind of like an Amazon feedback thing. So those are the 4 things that I ask you to please help us out on. We deliver this podcast to you free every week. It takes a lot of work from our side. We do it gladly because we're passionate about the hobby and about promoting the hobby and about helping you and people like you. We ask that you please give us this 5 minutes of your time the next time you're on the computer to help us spread the word about the ScapeFu podcast. Now, you may also know that I have a sister podcast to the ScapeFu podcast, and that is the Ask Art podcast. So since you're here, go back to that search, type in Ask Art, hit enter. You're going to get to the results page. Now, because it's a new podcast, we only have 5 episodes released so far, you're going to have to go to this top area here and scroll this bar across to the right until you see my logo and the Ask Art podcast. Now, why is this? This is a perfect example of iTunes not understanding very well. This is not Google. So as you saw, I typed in Ask Art, but iTunes, not being very smart, put up the Ask Art podcast, which is pretty close to what I typed, right? But what is Art of Love podcast? Ask Al Tucher. I don't get it. 5 minutes with Wichita? Come on. It's not very smart. But what is it doing? It's looking at those 4 things I told you. Subscribers, the amount of shares, the reviews, the ratings. It's finding none. We're a new podcast, and therefore it's mixing us in with whatever it can sort of find. So we need to fix this, and the way to do it is clicking on that, subscribing, sharing, going to the ratings and reviews, leaving a rating, and leaving a review. If you like what I'm doing with the Ask Art podcast, and it's a weekly podcast where I answer one of your questions every week, short format, I'm hoping that you're finding it valuable. Please come here and help me out. Right now, I'm very sad. I have 0 ratings and 0 reviews. That's terrible. So I could really use your help, and you being the first one would be fantastic. I do thank everybody that rates and reviews us on the actual podcast itself. So there you have it. This is very important for us in the ScapeFu team to get the word out. We don't publicize any other way. We're a small outfit. We're just doing it as a labor of love. Please help us out by coming to the ScapeFu site on iTunes and giving us a rating. Thank you so much. Okay, so here we are on my iPhone, and what I want you to see is the podcast app that is on the top row here on the phone. You should have it somewhere on your phone. If not, all you need to do is flick down to the search, type in pod, and it pops right up there as your application, Podcasts. Again, it's built in to the latest version of iOS. Okay, this brings you to the podcast app, and what I want to do is, let me see how I get out of here. Well, I'm in the search function here, so I'll show you how to get there in a second, but let's type in ScapeFu, and you see it brings you to the ScapeFu podcast. You select that, okay? And this is where you will end up. Notice the toolbar in the bottom. I had previously selected search. So you click on search, you type in the ScapeFu podcast, and hit enter. This is where you come to. Go to the podcast down here at the bottom. Select that. And this is the page on your iPhone for the ScapeFu podcast. You see here subscribed. That's because I'm already subscribed to the ScapeFu podcast. But you, if you're not, will likely see a button here or a word here asking you to subscribe. Click that button. Now I'm going to caution you, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 pushes. It seems to have a little bit of a lag in subscribing. But what you want to end up with a grayed out subscribed in that area. Okay? Now, as soon as you've done that, the app will download the latest version of the podcast for you. Depending on the settings that you will use here on your iPad, on your podcast app, which you can change, it'll either download 1, 2, 3 podcasts, etc. So take a look at the settings on this. Now you have us on the go. It will download as soon as we release, and whether you want to listen to it on your commute to work or in any other fashion, when you're exercising, doing housework, whatever, you have us there handy. You don't need to be tied and tethered to that computer of yours to listen to the ScapeFu podcast. Now, if you see here the feed as I'm scrolling, these are all the episodes that we have. Let's say you're new to the ScapeFu podcast and you want to listen to an earlier one. For example, let's say aquarium photography, which is one of our popular ones. All you need to do is see that cloud with an arrow pointing down, tap on that cloud, and now it's going to download that episode to the app. Okay? So you'll have it here and you'll be able to play it whenever you like. Okay, if you go to my podcast here at the bottom, you will see, and I have a lot of podcasts, I consume a lot of them. Down here, you see the ScapeFu podcast, and you will see a number. Right now it's downloading, so it's not going to have a number, but you will see a little number where that orange exclamation point is. You just click here, and that's where you end up. Okay. Here I haven't downloaded many episodes, so you'll see this error saying this podcast has stopped automatically updating because you haven't viewed or played it recently. Obviously, I need to listen to my own podcast a little bit more for that to go away. But here's where you'll see all of the episodes on your iOS or iPod device. Now, what happens if you have an Android phone? You don't have an iPhone. Well, they're a little bit harder to get a podcast to listen to. They don't have this native podcast app like Apple does. However, there are some things you can do until Google builds it in. Go to your App Store. I don't have an Android phone, so I'm going to show you how to do it on an iPhone, but it's the same process. Go to the App Store that you normally download your apps from. Here I'm going to the Apple App Store. And search for Stitcher. S-T-I-T-H-C-H-E-R. Stitcher. See it there? Select it, and you'll find the Stitcher Radio for podcasts. This is, just download that app to your phone, search very similar to the way I showed you here for ScapeFu and the Ask Art podcast. And you'll be able to listen to it via that app. Another app that you could use on Android is SoundCloud. We also are in the SoundCloud ecosystem, so you can download the SoundCloud app and you will, again, search for ScapeFu and the Ask Art podcast. You'll find them and you'll be able to listen through to them via the SoundCloud app. So I hope this has made it easy for you to download the ScapeFu podcast and the Ask Art podcast. It's going to help you listen to the episodes in an easier way, and it's going to help us by helping us become more popular, which helps everybody because we will be expanding the hobby, the planted aquarium. Boy, that's a tongue twister, I guess, today. The planted aquarium hobby and aquascaping. So if you have any questions, send me an email at art@scapefu.com. I'll be happy to help you figure out how to get this onto your phone so that you can take us on the road with you. Okay? Thank you so much. And again, thank you for being a loyal ScapeFu listener. Take care.